I'm dropping your mag. Thank you.
Hey, there goes one. Hey, you shot my cow.
Alright, for YouTube, for everyone concerned, disclaimer, Myles is going to be doing, does all the research on all the guns. He's going to be doing most of the reviews on the guns. He's not a kid that got into dad's safe, found the camera, and is videotaping guns. He is under my supervision 100% of the time. Anytime you're messing with guns, I'm behind the camera all the time. So it's not like he just found a gun and put it on YouTube. I'm 100% under my supervision anytime he's touching guns and doing anything.
Hey, Myles from Go-nee-uh Outdoors. God, I can't. There, Myles from Go-nee-uh Outdoors, and today I'm going to be going over my AR. This is a PSA M16-ish clone, somewhat, kind of, yes-ish. It's got an M16 A2 stock with a Condor stock pouch. Just a cheap Amazon sling. And Ranger Loop magazines that I custom made myself. With some 550 cord and 100 mile an hour tape. And a little neat thing I did, put a playing card in the stock. King of Hearts. I'm the funniest man alive. Tell me I'm the funniest man. Now, the kind of vibe somewhat that I'm going for was based off of this picture. And I saw that, and I'm like, man, that stock pouch looks so cool on that M16. And I had a light bulb. Since I was making an AR with an M16 stock with this Magpul handguard, I thought, what if I put that stock pouch on it, and one thing led to another, and then the sling, and then the Ranger loops. I'll admit I got that from Call of Duty. Putting a playing card in your helmet or somewhere on your rifle was a tradition that was carried from Vietnam, where soldiers would put playing cards in their helmets or their rifles to give them sort of whatever luck or advantage they could get. Now, before we had this beautiful rifle before me, we had the humble M14. Now, say what you want about the M14, while it looks cool, in combat, the thing kind of sucked. It was really heavy, it kicked way too hard, and it was pretty inaccurate. Especially being for 7.62, you can understand their complaints. It was made entirely out of wood, and the receivers were also very heavy. So, it was unfavorable. Now, as per the Army specifications, they wanted something chambered in. This is the 5.56 by 45mm intermediate cartridge. To sort of solve one of the problems of the M14, as it was heavy and kicked too hard, making it too inaccurate for soldiers to use. I'm going to take a step back to get to the M16 we have today. We need to look back to the same trials that the M14 went through. In it, the AR-10 was entered, and it met the specifications somewhat, but the M14 won it out. It was kind of a big mistake in my opinion. But they eventually rejected the AR-10 and went to the M14. To their dismay, this would come back to bite them, as ended up using the same design. Now back to the XM16 trials. Stoner entered pretty much a downscaled AR-10. He called it the AR-15, it was designed by Stoner and Armalite in 1959, and it was his entry into the XM16 trials. Now the operation is kind of weird. but it's very simple. Instead of using a long or a short stroke piston like the AR-18, or a long stroke piston like the AK, this uses a sort of pseudo gas piston system. It uses a Stoner gas key system. What it does is, instead of a piece pushing on the bolt, the piece is the bolt being pushed directly to cycle the weapon. And the gas still travels through a tube, but instead of interacting with the piston, it interacts with the bolt itself, which was a key design of the AR-10. And the Army loved it, so much more than the M14, that in 1963 they replaced the M14 with the XM16. However, the soldiers did not love it as much. It had many problems, the big one being failure to eject, which a lot of dead soldiers were found with disassembled rifles because of it. So what they did to counteract that was quickly coming out with the M16A1, which introduced the forward assist, which pretty much solved the problem in the Army's eyes. There was a bunch of other minute changes, like very minimal things like a chrome-plated chamber, but those are all very small changes that had little impact, but contributed to the bigger picture overall of improving the M16. Now, another key component of the original M16's failures was the idea that it was self-cleaning, that the steel that it was made of didn't need to be cleaned as much, so it could just not be cleaned and function, which was absolutely incorrect and led to the deaths of many soldiers. Because of the idea that the rifles were self-cleaning, they weren't issued with cleaning kits. So they had to resort to using all sorts of garbage to clean their rifles, and it just made it so much worse because it induced a lot more wear, a lot quicker on the rifles, causing them to fail. Which is why there is a trapdoor on the back of the buttstock was to house a cleaning kit. Now, the original M16s and M16A1s were fully automatic, and that was a problem in the eyes of the Army because they thought that untrained soldiers would just spend all their ammunition and then not have any point of accuracy and have completely wasted their ammunition. Now, to counteract that, on the later model, the M16A2, they made it 3-round burst, which is one of the key ideas of the M16. Now, what the A2 essentially did was brought the M16A1 into the current era. It modernized it to the 1980 standards. It changed the handguard, it added a brass deflector, they did a bunch of small things that are more noticeable on today's rifles, eventually leading up to what we have now. Then later they came out with the M16A3, which did not see very widespread use. It was really mainly used by SEALs and other special forces, but not really by any large part of the military. However, one big key component of the A3 was that it was also full auto, and it has a removable carry handle like I have on mine. However, the A2 was infinitely more popular than the A3 because it just couldn't really be replaced. It was that perfect in the eyes of the military, and specifically the Marines. The Marines love the M16, and they still do. And in 1997, the USMC adopted the M16A4, which was a further modernization of the M16, which is somewhat by today's standards, seemed a little unmodernized, but it fit perfectly in the 2000s, and the global war on terror is where it was seen most common. Picture this: Marines clearing houses with 20-inch barrels and fixed stocks. That is a level of aura that I don't think anybody could match, other than the Marines. Go Devil Dogs, am I right? Now, there is a speculation. We don't know if this is 110% true, but they had thought the Marines were executing enemy soldiers because of how many headshots they were getting. But they had found that it was only attributed to the ACOG scope and how accurate they were. Which is kind of weird because the M16 was initially the Army's rifle, but then it slowly transitioned over to the Marines' rifle. The Marines have always been slower to transition to newer rifles. Like, take the M1, for example. During World War II, the Marines were still using 1903s when the Army had already adopted the M1. It just goes to show that their second model might as well just be, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Okay, so I got 10 rounds of M193 55 grain 5.56. Shooting out of just a Stanag magazine with some 550 cord and 100-mile-an-hour tape, Ranger loop. That I totally didn't steal from Call of Duty, by the way. Manual version is simple. Press this button right here for the magazine release. In, out. And the charging handle is locked by a little detent right here. You push that detent and it unlocks and you're able to move the bolt. So, put that all in action, looks like this. And a lot of times what people do is after they charge the gun, they hit the forward assist to make sure that the rifle is fully seated and ready to go. Alright. 10 rounds. Oh. And the fire selector is right here, able to be actuated just by the shooter's thumb. They also make ambidextrous ones for left-handed shooters, that way you can activate it with your finger, or for a lefty with your left thumb. Alright. Let's go. After 10 rounds up, when the magazine is empty, the bolt will lock back, and a button on the left side of the weapon to drop that bolt when you load a new mag in. Ideally a fresh magazine. You press that and it sends the bolt straight home and you're ready to keep shooting.
Now, cleaning this rifle is very easy and kind of fun, to be honest. Always make sure the weapon is clear and on safe sometimes. Now, the AR-15 works on a pivot system where this pin back here opens up and the whole rifle flips open like this. And it was designed to be opened by a cartridge. Like this. You take the tip of a cartridge and you push against the pin and it slides right out. I've never done that before, but that worked brilliantly. And it pivots open like that. Now, to take the bolt carrier and the charging handle out for further cleaning, you just pull on the tab on the charging handle, pop it out. You take the bolt carrier out. Mine's all greased up. And then you take the charging handle out, which you pull it out and then push it down and it comes right out. Everything on my AR is A2 mil-spec pretty much, except the handguard. The trigger, mil-spec, stock, A2 mil-spec, carry handle, A2 mil-spec, front sight, A2 mil-spec. The only thing that's different about this is the handguard, which I love this look. This is kind of pseudo-tactical, but not too tactical. And I think it looks very nice on this rifle to not go way over the top with rails and M-lock and all that. So now you can see into the guts of the lower receiver and see the fire selector moving, and then the hammer. Works on a simple sear. Just hammer is pushed down by the bolt and it locks into the sear. If I can get a good angle of that, might be able to see it in there. And then when you fire, you can see the sear right there. When the hammer comes down, it engages the sear, and the sear holds it back. Now, for further disassembly and cleaning, there's another pin right here. You can see its pivot point right there, where you can pop that pin out. Yep, need a cartridge. Pop the pin out. And careful, because the whole thing will come apart. Like that. Now you have your lower receiver and your upper receiver. Now, for civilians, the lower receiver is considered the firearm because that's the serialized item, which it's the ATF. You never know. So this is as far as you would really typically want to take this apart for cleaning, because now you have full clear access to the barrel and chamber. Is there a blockage in there? Oh no, I can see the rifling. That's cool. Usually they're seen with a 1 in 7 twist, but they come in all different kinds of... They've done so much to the AR. It's the most modular rifle in the world. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have like a 1 to 2 twist. I heard Q was working on something like that. Now more on the parts themselves. This is the forward assist. The bolt has a bunch of notches cut into it, so that way if it doesn't fully seat into the rifle, the notches catch on the forward assist on the inside, and you can just... A lot of people, what they do is when they charge the rifle, they slam the forward assist forward to ensure the rifle is fully seated. And if you look into the light, please. If you look into the chamber, you can see the star-shaped locking lugs, which the bolt locks into to prevent a blowback of a 5.56 cartridge would be suboptimal, we'll say. The way it works is these ears, focus, please. All right. These lugs on this bolt piece right here move into the bolt and are turned into place, locking the rifle under the spring tension of the buffer spring. And this piece on the top is the gas key. This is what is pushed on by the gas coming from the gas tube and is what cycles the rifle. Now, for reassembly, there is a trick to it. I don't exactly remember. Okay, yeah. The trick, somewhat, kind of, is to put the charging handle in first. And if you look into... Probably can't see it on camera. If you look into the receiver and on the charging handle, there is cutouts where they line up. And then you put the... Oh yeah, the charging handle has to be up so that way the gas key can interface with the charging handle properly and drop it right in. And you just put the two pieces together of the rifle. Make sure the sling's not twisted. Alright. And then this is kind of the hard part, is getting this first pin in. Sometimes it just slides right in, sometimes it's kind of finicky like it is now. What I find works is kind of putting the rifle together fully first, and then pushing it together, and then, yep, slides right in. And then the other pin, and there you go. Function check. Yep, alright, yeah. And that is how you take apart any AR rifle, M16 rifle, for cleaning, replacing parts, whatnot. It's a very simple design, and it makes sense why the military adopted it. What else would they have had? Because then we wouldn't have this. Support the troops, make a vet, catch some deers.